we're at a crossroads. We're either picking the side with Bernie, Maxwell Frost, and AOC, or you're picking the path of Cornel West, Chama Sawant, and Chris Hedges, and you can't be in both camps. Oh, we can do both. It's my opinion. We can't do both. This whole 1 foot in, 1 foot out is something that's preventing us from building anything meaningful outside of the two corporate corrupt parties. This is the tweet. The time is now to make a complete break from the Democratic Party, and that means no more 1 foot in, 1 foot out. No, we can't do both. Working class energy must be put into one singular task, and that's to remove itself from these two capitalist parties. The professional managerial class has the time and energy to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Working class people and the poor do not. And let me zero in on this part of we can't do both, because this is the thing we hear a lot. Well, we got to put our, do everything, put all the eggs in the basket to kind of combat everything. But what in the political realm, what doing, 1 foot in, 1 foot out is what I call it. 1 foot in the Democratic Party, 1 foot out in the Green Party, or 1 foot out in non-establishment. It doesn't allow you. It's like both things are inadequate. You're dividing your time. So what you're providing is just inadequate to actually accomplish anything. And think about that. Even with the Democratic Party, what they're doing now is inadequate. What the squad is doing now is inadequate to accomplish anything. And then when you look out the outside game, the outside game is I wouldn't say it's very weak, but it's not where it should be with the organizing and with the events that's happening. We should be a lot further or a lot more organized. And the reason we can't get there is because we're dividing our time between the blue team and then trying to build up an outside game, which to me, dividing your time doesn't work. So it comes down to, for me, Apollo, and then I know, I don't know if you responded to this tweet. I can't remember, but we'll go to some replies here. But do you, Apollo, feel like do you feel like this is just another 2016, 2020? Or do you feel like with the march to, go to war with Russia and China, on top of the military budget skyrocketing, on top of the pandemic, on top of unemployment, on top of austerity measures, on top of voting, to break a strike from the squad, on top of, sending money to Ukraine, do you feel like this is a different space where there needs to be an abrupt change, meaning cutting all ties from the Democratic Party?
I think so too. I definitely think we need to cut all ties from the Democratic Party because, some of you guys might know that I worked on AOC's campaign. I worked on several other campaigns, including Ayanna Pressley, including some candidates that didn't win, and even Bernie. But the point is, unless we're gonna elect Democrats, progressive Democrats in significant numbers, it's not really gonna make any meaningful change as long as you have the Pelosi's of the world still in charge of the party. Because we see how easily AOC buckled to Pelosi's pressure, and the rest of the squad followed through. Kirsten Sinema once again started off as a anti-war Green Party activist in 2004, and
she did. That's one thing I did not know. Oh yeah, I did not know she was a Green Party activist.
I think she was. Yeah, I can double check though, but an anti-war activist in 2004 for sure, and I think it was with the Green Party. But it's just surprising how it is kind of surprising how quickly people buckle to the pressure. So if you want any kind of meaningful change, it has to be outside the Democratic Party, because in order to make any realistic change in the party, you would have to win so overwhelmingly, just completely wipe out the entire Democratic Party team, and and that is what,
like 100 new members all in the same conference. You know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, think about how unrealistic that is, and it's just it's not possible. We need definitely a brand new approach entirely. So I think the people that are saying, "Oh, we can do both," either our controlled opposition, because if we do both, that's just, like you said, dividing our labor, dividing our effort, in which case we get nothing done. Or they're just incredibly naive, because I was, in that naive camp too for
You
a
was in
long
that
time.
boat, okay?
Yeah, for a long time that we could get something done. Like, so I believed it for a while, and so I'm not gonna assume I'm not gonna assume like everyone who says we can do both is a bad faith actor, but like it just comes to me like I hear it like as a naive kind of thing. Like it comes from a point of naivete that makes you say you could do both. But yeah, I mean, the unrealistic measures you would need to go through to completely wipe out the Democratic Party clean, that's just not going to happen. And to the conversation that we were having the previous live stream last week, anybody that runs outside the duopoly and poses a serious threat to the duopoly, they will go after hardcore. So before even coming to that point, they're probably going to do everything they can to curb the efforts of anti-establishment uprising, essentially.
Facts, and I'll bring you in, Zoya. And I know you're able to speak now, but you might hear some kids in the background, which is completely fine as long as we can hear you. And now I know you've been talking on permanently being not part of the Democratic Party probably a lot longer than both Jay and I. And anytime I say like we're talking about this, of course we're not talking about individual local elections. There might actually be like a real communist, like we had a real communist run in the city of Long Beach. He might run under it, but he's actually a real communist. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about more like, more beginning at the state rep level, more beginning at like, governorships like that. That's where I'm more talking about. Because if there's a decent Democrat locally, like for example, if Shama Sawant was listed as a Democrat, I wouldn't necessarily find a particular issue with that. But Zoya, let's bring you in. What say you about and I'll pop my tweet back up there. Do you think it's time, or can you speak to this tweet where I'm talking about this is the time to make a complete break, and that means not having this sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and this actually comes from a conversation I had with Case Study. I won't tell everybody what was said in the conversation, but this stems from a conversation I was having with him about various topics. But what say you, Zoya, about what's your reaction to this topic from this tweet?
Well, I'm really jealous of anyone that still has the opportunity to dem exit because I never dem entered. I'm registered no party affiliation. I can't believe it's still a topic of discussion in 2024, but thank God most voters are already independent. Independents outnumber Democrats and Republicans, and people who don't vote even outnumber them. So for some people, that might still be a thing to consider, but it's such a small segment of the population, although their representation is large because of corporate media, because of things we know through Twitter files. They're overrepresented, but actually not that many people are Democrats population-wise. But yes, if you still have the misfortune of having an affiliation to this party, let me ask you, what have they done for you? Just factually, just materially. I know they might say things you like. I know they might say things you agree with, but they don't back it up with any action. They just pretend that there's nothing they can do about it, whether they're using strategy of rotating villains or just pretending they don't have executive authority to freeze inflation. They have you convinced they can do. So for those of you who understand already that we're in a rigged game, politically, economically, in every possible way, we are not going to check a box to defeat our oppressors. No amount of vote is going to change system operates. The most we could do is get reforms through ballot initiatives and through some local representatives, ordinances. I've been a part of all of that. But the reason the system even allows for these things is that it does nothing on the grander scale of capitalism and how it works and how it robs us all of our energy and time and life. So they're okay with opposition. They're okay with people voting for Republicans or Democrats. It does not matter to them. Electorally, ultimately, is not going to be our path out of this. We have to be able to leverage something to take. We are not going to achieve liberation. And Malcolm X said, the ballot or the bullet. We've already seen it's failed, but let me just say, general strike before the because I think that that's where our strategy needs to be headed towards. And for that, I'm hoping Dr. Cornel West's run is going to energize people and inspire them and help us organize a general strike where we can withhold our labor in order to get concessions. But ultimately, we cannot engage with the system in good faith. And that's, I love that Dr. Cornel West was calling the corruption out for what it is, for both of these parties being controlled by corporations and money. We know for a fact that lobbyists write the laws in these countries and our representatives don't even bother reading them. They are just actors that are selling us what the corporations want to do to us. And they are not going to allow us to vote our way out. Imagine any scenario where people have power over you. And, you know, in Nazi Germany, like, can you imagine someone just voting them out and the press are going, well, oh, you guys don't like me, I guess I'll pack up and leave. That's just not where our focus needs to be at. But having said that, while we are here still living our lives, we have to do what we can. And that is why I engage with ballot initiatives. That's why I want you guys to know that they're doing it right now in Cop City. So they'll tell us to do things their way, right? To play their game, go collect signatures, go show up to city council meetings. And you guys are getting a real life example, and I lived it too, of what happens when we play by their rules. They just changed them. When we submit required amount of signatures, which Matthew Ho did for his run, they just disqualify signatures based on things like you didn't put a period, or it's not legible, or they change the amount of signatures required. You know, it's like you're trying to play a board game with someone that has extra pieces hidden in their pocket. So even if you're winning, they can just rig it in their favor. So
they got 2 extra jokers in their back pocket. That's what they got. But go ahead, finish your comment.
So I'm of course Dem exit, GOP exit, capitalism exit, entire system exit. What are we doing? Look around you. Look at your conditions. The only party I'm interested in being in solidarity with is the proletariat.
You know, back when I was working on these campaigns for AOC and other progressives, despite how much they're playing ball right now with the Democratic Party, they were targeted and suppressed by the Democratic Party establishment. I remember going to like certain training sessions where they said, okay, when you collect signatures, make sure you don't use 2 different inks, because if they use 2 different inks, they can throw that signature out. Make sure you fill the signature in the box, because if you don't, they'll throw it out. So like they had all these, and I can't even remember like all the details now, but I just remember having like these very strict requirements that if you didn't follow, they'd throw the entire fucking ballot out. So they have, you know, like, it just shows you how rigged the game is against.
They're trying to nitpick in order to not have democracy, essentially, like to go against democracy, which is pretty disgusting.